Welcome to Digital Board Game Labs, wherein we explore the possibilities found in digital board gaming. My name is Alexi, and today I'd like to explore the differences between a tile and a token in Tabletop Simulator, and why you would choose one over the other. So in order to be able to know the pros and cons of using a tile over a token or a token over a tile in TTS, it's important that we control as many variables as possible. So luckily with tiles and tokens, you really only need an image to be able to create them. So for this demonstration, I've created two images, and you'll see the reason why later, but it's essentially a coin image, all right? So I have a 1 coin and a 2 coin. The important thing to note about these images is that the background is actually transparent. So they're standard circular coins, but the important thing to note is that the background is transparent. So I've saved those two images out as PNGs, and the reason why we're using PNGs over JPEGs is that PNGs actually support transparency, and JPEGs do not. So with those files created, let's jump straight into TTS, and let's create our tile first. So let's go to Objects, Components, Custom, Tile, left click on the table and right click to be able to set the parameters for the tile, and let's pick that coin 1 image that we prepared earlier. All right, so let's do a cloud upload, and that's fine, and we're actually done. That's it, right? So you actually don't need to supply a bottom image for the tile, because by default it's just going to use the top image as the bottom image as well. So that's sort of convenient. So why would you want a bottom image? We'll talk about that a little later. But once we press import, you'll see there's our lovely tile. But you'll notice that our tile is actually square, which is not what we want. Okay, so let's just leave that aside for a bit and let's create our token. Let's do the exact same thing, but with a token this time around. So left click and right click and pick an image. So you'll see that unlike a tile, a token only takes one image. And why is that an advantage and a disadvantage? I'll show you in a bit. So let's select the same image, as I said, so coin 1, upload that to the cloud, and leave everything else pretty much the same, just to control all of our variables, right? And when we click import, aha, very interesting. So you immediately see that there is a difference between a tile and a token. Because the token right here, we did exactly the same thing, right? We just uploaded that one image. You can see that the token is round. Now, why is that? It's because tiles do not respect transparency, whereas tokens do. Essentially, tokens can read the transparency of your image and basically cuts that out from the shape of your component. And that's the reason why we can see that our token coin is actually round. Okay, so that's very, very useful when you're actually creating odd-shaped components within TTS, right? What do I mean by odd-shaped? Meaning the non-standard, non-circular, non-hexagonal components, much like, say, meeples or different resources, right? Wherein it's basically just an extrusion of a shape, right? If you just want an extrusion of a shape, then you're gonna want to use a token. So in this case, the extrusion is just circular because that is our transparent background. But know that for as long as you have a shape, doesn't matter what kind of shape it is, for as long as the background is transparent, then TTS will be able to read that and punch it out for your component. Now from that, you might say, oh cool, okay, so I guess tokens are much better than tiles then. So in a sense, yes, in that particular use case, tokens are indeed more useful. But if I can direct your attention back to the coins, you'll notice that if I actually flip these components, you'll see something very interesting as well. There you go. So you remember what I said about tiles in the beginning, wherein you can provide the same image? So basically you can provide the top image, and that same image is going to be used for the bottom image. That's what it's using now. So if I flip it, it's the exact same image. But if you flip a token, and the image that you provided doesn't really mirror properly, you'll see that it's actually in reverse at the bottom. So why is that? Again, I was mentioning earlier that with tokens, they just basically extrude that image, right? So it's making a flat image into a 3D image. And because it's doing that, that explains why the image at the back is mirrored, right? Because it's essentially just one image being stacked on top of each other multiple times. So in other words, if you actually flip it, it's the reverse of that image, if that makes any sense. All right, so that's the advantage of tiles then. It allows you to place images that are not you know, symmetrical. Because if this number 1 was symmetrical, we wouldn't really know the difference. But if it is not symmetrical, as this is, you'll notice that there is definitely a mirroring error when creating the token. Now here's the cool thing though. With tiles, if you right-click on them and go to custom, you can actually make them circular as well, like this. So you can see the type here. We have a box here, and that's the reason why it's a square. But if we select circle right here, it actually is gonna cut it out into a circle, which is super, super cool, right? So in that sense, suddenly tiles are again much more useful. In that sense, anyway. Again, if your shape is a little bit odd, like a meeple, then you have to go with a token for sure. And since meeples are typically just a color, you don't really have screen printed stuff on there, then it's gonna work perfectly fine. But yeah, for a token, for example, for a coin token, I should say, tiles and tokens within TTS would work perfectly well. Now, the other advantage of course, a tile is that when you color it, color tint it right here. So right click, color tint, you can actually change the shade of the thickness of it. All right, so what if we want to make it look like cardboard, which is of course what you would like for a board game. It looks like cardboard, like a light brown, right? Something like that. Okay, you can actually do that, and that's cool, right? But with a token, you'll notice that if we tint it a different color, let's do that light brown as well, it's gonna color the entire thing, which is not what you want, right? So we just wanted the thickness to be colored, but with a token, since it's basically considering the entire component as the entire shape, it has no real, you know, idea of where the image starts and where the actual 3D component ends, or whatever. It actually colors everything, okay? But the cool thing about it is that you'll see that the color of the thickness of a token is the color of the edge of your token. So whatever the edge is, since it is extruding that edge, it'll take that color as well. Hopefully that made sense. Okay, so now we need to talk about components that need to have double sides. So as I alluded to earlier, tiles do accept a second image. So you can just go to custom, go to your bottom image, and select your second image. And you are good to go. As you can see, there's a double image there for the tile, but you can't really do that with a token, unfortunately. There is no other option for a second image. So what if you have an oddly shaped resource, right? So a meeple or whatever that happens to be two-sided as well. How do you do that? So you can't use a tile because you're essentially limited to a box, a hex, a circle, or just a rounded box shape. So let's just go through all those options now. So you don't really have that option with a tile. So you'll have to go with a token. But then again, the token only has one side. What if you could combine two tokens into one? Maybe that'll help. So what we can do, if you want to create a double-sided token, I should say, you can just copy that token that you have there. Make sure that you have a snap point there, just so that it'll snap together. And essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a double-layered token. And hopefully you can see where I'm going with this. So what we do is we just change the image of one of them into the second image that we want. Okay, and there you go. We don't want to update it because we want them to be different. And now with our snap point there, we can essentially flip this. Okay, and then we put this on top. And that essentially gives us, oops. Okay, now I know what's happening. It'll essentially give us the coin that we want, the two-sided coin that we want. Okay, but then now they're separate. Is there a way to actually combine them? Yes, indeed, there actually is. We have to use the combine tool within TTS. So it's this chain-looking icon on your toolbar. So just grab that, and then grab any of the coins, and then just click and drag to the other coin. All right, so like this. There you go. That creates an entirely different object, a new object that combines the two of them. And if you can see, if we flip it, there you go. There's the one and there's the two. And that's essentially how you get around that limitation of tokens being only one-sided. Or at least that's one of the ways you can actually do it. And that's is the simplest way and the way that I prefer. So that should just about do it for this video. It's a little shorter than our previous videos, but I'm trying this new format out. So the idea is I wanted to streamline production and editing of the video as much as I could, and this is the format I found. So please let me know if you like this format or if you want me to go back to the previous formats. That'll really be helpful in terms of how I move forward with the channel. So please let me know in the comments down below. So if you like this video, don't forget to like it. And if you like what we're trying to do in Digital Board Game Labs as a whole, please do consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon to be notified of future content within the channel. So I'll see you guys next time, and don't forget to have fun playing games digitally.